I can't light a room. You might have noticed this. So it's quite dark here in the UK. So I've just strangled Kermit the Frog just to kind of like take people sort of.
What did Kermit do?
I've got a lot of time for Kermit. I love Kermit, but you know, we all have to make sacrifices. Sorry, this has got off to a dark start, hasn't it?
Is that so no other Muppets come by? Is that like keeps Professor Honeydew from interrupting the
Have
interview?
you ever been offered a Muppet film to direct? I'd love to see that.
No, but I mean I love the Muppets, man.
Yeah,
I
me
think
too.
they're so good. I think that the most starstruck I've ever been was I used to direct the Jimmy Kimmel, show,
Yes.
and Grover was on the show, and I couldn't talk. I told the guy
Yeah.
to put him on because it was disturbing to see him out of just
Yeah.
lying on a floor. Like I thought he'd be in like a like the Ark of the Covenant or something. Like they'd carry him on, and he was
What,
just
Indiana Jones and the Search for
yeah, yeah,
Grover? Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And that's what melted the Nazi's face. So
Yeah, of course. Spoilers.
so So I said, "Hey, can you put that on?" And he put it on, and Grover goes, "Hi, Bobcat," and I was like, I truly, I was
I've
so
had
stuck.
this.
I
I've
was
had the
like,
same experience with Fozzie Bear. Genuinely,
yeah, oh,
I was on a set with, and Fozzie is my Muppet.
yeah, yeah.
The failed unfunny. Yeah, that is just me. You know,
Which I
just
feel like both are Frank Oz, right? I
yeah,
mean, yeah.
yeah.
So I was just like, I mean, that's the most starstruck I've ever been, and I couldn't form sentences, which is really funny because I think of like the people who eventually became my friends and stuff over the years, and I had no problem talking to them.
So now I want to know who was the second most. You know how this, I'll just do a clickbait interview from this point. It's
Well, I mean, it was odd, but in the '90s, I was friends with David Bowie, and I were friends.
yes, of
But
course. Yeah.
so when he invited me. We didn't know each other. He invited me to see this Glass Spider tour, and my friend Tom Kenny went with me. And Tom Kenny is the voice of SpongeBob. I've known Tom since I was
Yeah.
6 years. So we go to see him, and I don't know if you remember the Glass Spider thing, but it's just
I,
it was so fucking stupid. He's a giant spider, and shit's he comes flying in from
I
the
love
sea.
it already.
So so he goes. So he asked us, he goes, "What did you think of it?" I go, "Well, it was like watching Pippin." And he goes, "What?" I go, "Well, Tom thought it was more like Hello, Dolly." Both he's looking at us like, "Who the fuck are these guys?" Even he was trying to remember, like, what is this feeling? Oh, people are making fun of me to my face. And then we just became friends. I mean, I think, but again, I was more starstruck with
I
Grove.
Grove. That's the takeaway from this. Usually, I do a very mature and grown-up introduction to interviews, which
Oh,
I've
okay.
completely foiled by murdering Kermit the Frog behind me. For
Yeah.
those listening to the audio of this, Kermit's fine,
Okay, good. Yeah.
and regards to his family. So I'm joined by by Bobcat Goldthwait as I desperately try and pull back any veneer of professionalism that I once had. Hello, Bobcat Goldthwait. How are you?
Hello, hello,
And
hello.
where are you?
I am in Los Angeles, but I live in Ireland. I moved there not long ago.
Okay, so I'm in the middle of England. I'm in the West Midlands in England. You live
Yeah,
in Ireland, and to finally get you on this, I have to
I'm in
wait for
Los
you to go to Los Angeles to talk
Yes,
about a film that was what, 14 years old.
15 years old, and yeah, and was supposed to be shot in well, some of it was in LA, but a lot of it was not in LA. Um,
So, I mean, so the film in question, just for those who don't know, I played a clip from it right at the start, is God Bless America,
yeah,
which I mean, that one of the worst things about my side of this is waiting for an interview to start because I'm deadly. I start reading things that I shouldn't read while I'm waiting. So I went and found some Amazon user reviews for God Bless America for you. I'm really intrigued by. There's one person who says that it's ironic that Goldwait, you're called now, writes and directs a movie condemning what he made his fortune at.
Yeah.
Which nicely segues with an interview I was just reading beforehand, that the movies you've chosen to make as a filmmaker are the reason you rent rather than buy. That you took a
Yeah.
financial sacrifice to do that, and yet the perception is you're a very rich man.
Yeah.
One Amazon user somewhere in deep America's really got it in for you.
Then yeah, I'm a thousandaire, if that. But uh, I and I say this and it's true. I don't make my living making movies. I make a
Yeah,
living so I can make movies. I'm on the road doing
love that.
stand. I have a lot in common with the working class person. I'm probably not making that much more than them when I'm on tour. But it affords me to go out and make movies on my own terms. Just, I don't really, I'll wait. Like someone will say, "Oh, we'll make this movie if you change this and change that." And I'll be like, no, that's okay. I'll just go somewhere else, which I did do. I did
Yeah.
that the first movie I made, Shakes the Clown. It was all set up someplace, and I left during lunch after they gave me some notes.
I do have some positive stories about you. I'm sorry to you brought up Shakespeare Clown there. I've just read a story that because I didn't know this at all, that it was boycotted by clowns.
Oh yeah,
Is
it
that
was,
true?
yeah,
I,
and I helped fan the flames though. I would agitate the clowns and say,
please
and
tell me that story and then I'll get back onto
like
onto the
like like they interviewed Bozo and I was saying, well, he should be happy that he's not waving out front of a car wash and just I would just you know clowns aren't funny. The only reason they perform in hospitals, that's one place a kid can't get up and run away from them. And I would just say I'd talk all this smack, and then clowns would get mad, and then they started protesting, um and then what happened was Johnny Carson ended up talking about shakes 2 nights in a row on his monologue, which was unbelievable
that's a
publicity.
huge right for us here in the UK who might not be familiar. That's a huge deal, isn't it? The Johnny
Yeah, I'm
Carson
trying
monologue.
to,
Yeah.
I don't know what that would be the equivalent of, but yeah, yeah, like I was persona non grata on the Tonight Show, but the controversy got me on. I'm going to derail this interview a little bit. You talked about Amazon reviews. So
Yes.
every time you buy a product, they ask, would you like to review it? So
Yeah.
this is like these are cat treats,
Yes,
temptation.
I'm very aware of those. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wrote a review. I write reviews all the time. I
Whoa,
wrote,
whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay. Yeah, I'm in.
warning, only for cats. They aren't kidding when they say not for human consumption. They taste terrible, not even paired with the correct wine. No wonder Boots' breath stinks. Take my advice and read that label. So I do it all the time. I
Right.
should be using my energy for something more productive. But it's amazing that people like will will they comment on my comment, whatever. But
So, I mean, this wasn't a question I expected to ask. And at some point in this interview, I am going to get to the film, right? But
sure.
you go on Amazon and write reviews of products. Do you put them under your own name?
No, no, I use lots
Are
of
you
times.
like Darth Bobcat
No,
641 or
it's
something?
sometimes it's Joe Gideon, which was Roy Scheider's character's name and all that jazz. And then sometimes it's Joe Mess, which is just what we used to call somebody in high school if we were making fun of him, Joe Mess.
And
But
then you go back and you read the reviews that people have put on your reviews.
no, I get Amazon sends me a notice and they'll say, keep it up. You've got, 5 star or some kind of, yeah, I get good feedback apparently from my, like we bought an inflatable horse for this party, and I was just like, not a real horse. Oh, and then I had a squid costume that I said, this really spiced up our marriage. Thank you. So yeah, I write all these reviews. I bought a vest and I was talking about not having arms.
Do people know you do this? Is this?
No, the first, this is the first time I'm talking about it
do you
publicly.
know what? I've gone through my entire career looking for an exclusive that no one else in the world has possibly
You,
got, and I've
you
landed on your review of cat biscuits. I couldn't be happier. be happier. I mean, I searched God Bless America. I went onto Amazon.com. I went onto the American one. I searched God Bless America, just fascinated what the first thing would come up is.
Yeah.
And so at the top, there's a video of a woman waving an American flag, which has got Jesus on it and stuff. Next, it's a sponsored DVD of Mickey 17, the bonus X-ray edition, and you're the I mean, you're the third listed. The woman's waving her flag again now. It says "One Nation under God." Let's not go there. So you're the third listed, and Amazon's choice as well. And my favorite review, actually, I mean, the feedback on it is really hugely positive. And I
Yeah.
just picked out one of the downbeat one. There's one person who says they gave it 8.4 out of 10. I've got no idea what the criteria is to get you a 0.4, but that strikes me someone's really thought about that.
Yeah, the point for it. Yeah, it was, and actually in England, like in London in the Time Out, it got a real big
Yeah,
rate. I remember that, which was really funny because I had a meeting with Killian Murphy about something, and and he came in and he has the Time Out with him. He goes, "Did you see this?" And I go, "It's like a 4 or 5 star review, and I
yeah.
go, I totally lie. I go, "No." I don't know why I lied, but
but but this isn't normal from my side of the fence. This isn't normal. That I don't get many emails asking me if I want to talk to someone about a 14-year-old film that costs what,
yeah,
100
yeah,
$150,000, which by the way that modern media reporting seems to be, should have just disappeared out of sight. And
yeah,
yet I hadn't watched. I've watched quite a few of the films you've directed. I hadn't watched this one until earlier today.
yeah,
And I mean, I kind of get why it's back out now, but also,
yeah.
is it as odd for you as it is for me? Does this thing happen a lot with your films?
Um, yeah. I mean, it sounds like I'm flattering myself, but what
No, it's a
happens
genuine question. It's not.
what happens is I think the people that I made the movie for eventually find is it,
Yeah,
this is a real small group, but although in Europe they like France they really like the film, but Americans shooting obnoxious Americans I'm sure they like, but um I think the people finally find it that and it's interesting to me because the people that may really be passionate about like Shakes the Clown
yeah,
won't like World's Greatest Dad or it's really strange that because I don't intentionally I don't make the same kind of movie each time
yeah.
um, because I just want to see it's usually can I pull this off, like could I make a suspenseful movie? That's why I did the Bigfoot film,
Willow
um,
Creek. Yeah,
yeah, and it's just like that's the thing. It's usually like, can I pull it off? And like I've finished a couple screenplays recently, but I had an idea which would have been typical of like the kind of thing I do. I was like, oh, I should do a January 6th buddy comedy, like two morons that get caught up in but I was like, you know what, that's too much like something I would do. So I went the direct opposite way and I actually wrote a family picture because I go, could I pull off a movie where
yeah,
there's no autoerotic asphyxiation or no one shoots a baby or, what I mean? And my friends read the script and they're like, the most fucked up thing about the script is you wrote it. So that was a challenge.
yeah,
And then I wrote another kind of movie which had like a kind of like kind of like a detective-y kind of not a detective, more of a whodunit kind of thing because I never did that.
yeah. Well, I found an interview you did for the original UK release of God Bless America, and you were asked at that point if you felt the film would play in the UK, that whether it was just solely in America. I mean, you hinted at it there with the response in France. And you said then how on the drive from the airport you kept seeing adverts for Keeping Up with the Kardashians. You told stories of how much you knew about the Kardashians when you knew nothing about them. But you also said that London was sort of the catalyst for it as well, which I didn't quite appreciate either. Can you just there was some point that you were in London that kind of gave you a spark for it? Is that true as well? I mean,
I'm trying to, I'm sure I did, but I'm trying to figure out what it was, when it happened, you know? Yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, I mean, I don't think I was lying. Sorry. Let me get, this is
I
Alice.
like the fact that the cat has appeared that didn't like
Yeah,
the wine that was with the cat biscuits now.
that's Alice Cooper. And uh, Robert Smith is somewhere around here. But that's my cat that I have a cat that hates me and is real moody. So it's Robert.
Everybody who owns a cat has a cat that hates them. I'm sat in a room that genuinely smells of cat urine, which I just noticed 10 minutes before I came in because I don't think I fed the cat on time and the cat's done a dirty protest. Again, this whole interview has just taken on a veneer of just like um, the first film I saw of yours that you directed was Sleeping Dogs Lie, and I've seen World's Greatest Dad. I've seen one or two of the others as well. But when I read about, say, Sleeping Dogs Lie and Willow Creek, for instance, I mean, the story is you've just paid for those out of your own pocket, complete,
Yeah.
almost completely. Was it the same with God Bless America? What was kind of the setup? What got it going?
No, God Bless America was funny because the folks that financed The World's Greatest Dad ended up financing it.
Yeah,
Sean McKittrick and Ted Ham. So Ted Ham he's actually a really smart guy, but his family had a beer company here in the States called Ham's Beer
yeah.
that's famous in the Midwest. And that's where his money initially came from. So they were on the fence about making God Bless America. And I went out and got a tattoo of the Ham's Beer logo on my chest. It was Ham's
So for
Beer.
those on the audio, I am being shown a tattoo. Yep.
Yeah, of the bear that was their logo. I come in and it's still bleeding. Actually, I come in, I go, "Are we going to make this movie or what?" And they don't laugh. Like I thought I'd get a big laugh, and then I'm driving back in my car, and they go, I get a call. They go, "Ted thinks you're fucking crazy. He'll give you the money." And they were great people to work with because they said, "Could you?" Um, for the budget, because the budget was it wasn't big at all, but they
Yeah.
said you drop some pages just because of the finance. They weren't like concerned about the content. And then when they saw my assemblage, they gave me the rest of the budget, and I went off and filmed. I got to add those pages back, so it was cool.
Oh, that's incredible. I mean, I've
Yeah,
been looking through the end credits of God Bless It. I always think with independent filmmakers, I want to see what's in the special thanks at the
yeah,
end because I think loads of clues as to how to get low budget films off the ground can be found in the special thanks. There is a tattoo parlor thinking about it now in the special
yeah,
thanks. Was it the one that just did the tattoo that you've just showed
yeah.
me?
I'm sure it was. Yeah,
I mean, there's a line in there though where you specifically thank all of our friends who begged, borrowed, and stole things for us. And I
um,
think throughout the productions of your films, you've had actors who've borrowed costume from other films and stuff like that. And
yeah,
production, can you take us into some of the tricks that allowed you to kind of realize this? Because it doesn't look cheap, you know.
oh,
It looks,
thanks. Like,
yeah,
I think like God Bless America for, the budget all in was probably like 800,000, which sounds, it is a lot of money. But when you think about the fact that there's so much of like in-camera effects, and there's a lot going on in that movie for that price. So I think it did do well. But yeah, we do, I'm always union, even like Sleeping Dogs Lie. I pay you can get like micro budget deals and stuff.
yeah,
And it's funny, the Sleeping Dogs Lie actually, all the actors in that ended up making money because there was no place to hide it. So they got paid to work, but then they got checks that were sizable because we
yeah,
sold the movie. And that felt really good. But we're yeah, I mean, it is beg, borrow, and steal. Like there's this scene in Sleeping Dogs Lie where they're in the back seat of the car in the garage, and we couldn't film in the house that we were in. The garage, we couldn't use it. It was just filled with
yeah.
crap. So broke the lock off the house across the street that was for sale, and we brought the camera and ran extension cords across the road. And I said, guys, we have to be really quiet tonight because this is an intense scene for the actors. And the cameraman is like, you don't have a permit. I go, I don't know whose fucking house this is. And so we broke into a home and shot a scene.
They don't train you to come up with a follow-up question for that either. That's
Yeah,
it's quite. But
yeah,
because oh heck, I've read a few books off independent filmmakers. They talk about shooting front doors. They talk about just run away as soon as you see. I mean, the most important thing on some independent film sets appears to be the lookout.
yeah, yeah,
From what I work out, but also you talk on the films on Sleeping Dogs Lie on Willow Creek. You talked about you never had so much fun just because it was so seat of the pants as well. I just wonder how that contrasts when you do have a budget when someone else is paying the bill. Does it just slightly alter the experience a little bit?
yeah. And it hampers. I have, I don't have enough money where I could rewrite and change things. But when we're doing them that small, I can do that. And that's part of the fun too. But there's also that thing that you're like getting away with murder is really fun. But like I remember in World's Greatest Dad, I was thinking about the movie and I thought that Robin's character got over the death of his son too soon, too easy. And so I just added a scene like the night before that Robin would be crying in a porn shop because the porno magazines reminded him of his dead
Yeah,
son because he was a pervert. And Chris from Nirvana, actually, Chris Novoselic, he plays the guy at the newsstand who runs the newsstand because we were shooting in Seattle and I called him up and I said, "Hey, will you be in this movie?" And I said, he goes, "Why?" I go, "Because you're funny." And he's like, "Oh, okay." But that one, because I thought of it the night before, this is why I
yeah.
told you this. I didn't have permits. And Robin's like, "So what do we do?" I go, "Well, we run." And you could see how excited he was, because I'm actually way the fuck away shooting this wide shot, and it was really fun. It was
So
yeah.
basically, you left him in the glare of it. You're miles back there with the zoom
Yeah.
lens on.
And I was thinking too, like what's going to happen is I don't think we're going to get arrested. They'll be more like, "Are you Robin Williams? What are you doing?" So I thought we had a little cushion there. But yeah. Um, it's that aspect of just getting it done, and just getting it done. uh, there's, if you have something, and I mean, obviously if it's effects or big cast or a lot of magical realism, it's harder, but you can always figure out a way to do stuff, so that's why I keep writing scripts. I don't wait for permission. I usually lie and say we're starting on in March, and I
Yeah.
might not have any money or anything, but we go, "Oh yeah," everyone just goes, "Yeah, we're going in March," and then it actually has always come together when I've done that.
I've interviewed Danny Boyle, who pretty much said exactly the same thing.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
just goes in and he doesn't ask permission and he just assumes it's going to happen and says, right, that person's going to be needed. And then it's up to someone to say stop.
yeah. The,
Well,
the the often I'm always waiting for that person. I was uh whatever. I'll go off. But yeah, when I did the series Misfits and Monsters, there was a
yeah,
couple things there where I was like going, how come no one said someone should really pull the plug on this?
it's the thing though, isn't it? Once something's up and running, no one wants to say no.
No, and
It's,
everybody else said, are you okay with this? I mean, the movie that I did that was really fascinating because people were upset when we were making it. It would be kind of a thing Nathan Fielder would do, but it was this movie called Windy City Heat, and it
yeah,
was this guy didn't know that it wasn't a real movie. And so that was an interesting thing because
but
people who were having a problem with it still showed up, which was weird, yeah.
and that
Um,
was the 2003 one that was done for Comedy Central. Was that right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
and like what we were talking about, it finds its audience. Like that movie has really hardcore fans, that have never, never seen Shakes the Clown or whatever. That fan base is really crazy. The people that like that movie, and it's all. I mean, this sounds pretentious. It's like I don't make, I don't make hit movies, but I make a lot of people's favorite movie.
I get that. You said something. In fact, I was listening to you talk to the late Gilbert Gottfried. I used to love his
Oh,
podcast. And
yeah, yeah.
you did a fabulous episode with him, and you talked about your formula is tiny movies and eluding box office success, almost as a deliberate choice. I thought that was really interesting. I know it was like a kind of a gag and stuff like that, but the trade off to do one means you're not likely to get the other, but you get to do
Yeah.
what you want.
Yeah, and then and I know I never expect it, but I mean it would be really odd if I stepped in shit and one of them actually connected, you know? Like I
Yeah,
feel that like Shakes the Clown isn't that much different than Bad Santa or there's a series that was on there, yeah, just now, that was popular here in the States, which was really close to Windy City Heat, uh, this movie is, a lot of what's addressed tonally is what happened to the United States, so I wrote it because I was really, it wasn't like a laundry list of people who I found annoying. It was really because I wrote it because I was like, I really wondered where we were going as a country,
yeah.
and it was actually like the rise of people like the Tea Party, was really fascinating to me and scary, and really that's what ended up fueling all this right wing stuff.
But I mean, it's almost like you come up with the idea 5 years before it could make you rich. That you're sort of ahead of it with just with like the stuff that you're doing. You say there about Windy City Heat that someone's just got to that now. I think there was it Dear Evan Hansen that was said to be relatively close
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
your work. So it's like people are getting there, but are
Yeah.
making more money just by waiting 5, 10 years to do it.
Here, here, Evan Hansen is in many ways a lot like World's Greatest Dad, and it never bothered me. But I went to it on Broadway, and I go, well, there's like a zygist, something's, it will happen, and I go, it can't be that much like it. And then there's this a line that's like right out of World's Greatest Dad, and I'm in the theater, and I go, Jesus Christ. Like not on purpose. I really yelled out, Jesus Christ. So I owe that actor an apology. But I don't spend too much time being sour grapes or anything because I don't know. It doesn't, I just keep, because you know why? It's like, because I'm gonna keep making them,
Yeah.
even if people don't like it or don't give me permission or whatever. I think it's weird to end up having a body of work is kind of usually when you get a little respect, I guess. But again, that's not what interests me.
But do you feel you're at that point now? Because I mean, it's clearly a body of work. I mean, what am I counting? 9 different features that you've directed alone, and that's not counting what thousands of hours of television. I mean,
Yeah, I think like I think I'm like probably a few more bigger movies away from that, but sometimes people will have a section in a video store, and that means a lot to me. That's pretty nice.
but does the fact that we're coming back to this film then, I mean, to kind of bring it a little bit full circle, God bless. I don't know if you've watched it again fairly recently, for instance. I mean,
No.
I mean, there's a line in there about how the phone was attached to a wall at the back of the house and it didn't have a camera in there. I mean, it's just like I'm just like, yes, yes, I remember this. But
I
there's
remember he says you had to take a picture with your brain camera.
That's right. They
Yeah.
say at one point that he watches the new Battlestar Galactica, not Star Trek. I thought that's the only thing that dates it.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
going for your your nerdy
Oh,
sci-fi
wow.
references there. But
Yeah, yeah.
have you gone back to it? Do you look back
No.
at your work? Could you look at it again?
I do sometimes, but that one, no. And I know why, because there's a couple things that I kind of wish I had done differently. And it's not about like removing any content. It's actually just structurally, I wish there was a couple scenes that were missing. But I think out of all the movies, that's the one that I dropped the ball on a couple key scenes that would have probably made it a little bit better. But whatever. I
Well,
could watch.
if Francis Ford Coppola goes back and redoes all of his films now,
Yeah, yeah. I don't I think it would probably drive it a little more, but it doesn't matter. Like I say, I just keep writing movies, and I write them because it has to be a challenge for me, and
yeah.
that's why I can't go out and pitch movies and make a living doing that because it's very personal,
So,
so
so how many? Because I read that you'd got something like 11 scripts once you came off World's Greatest Dad. You wrote 11 different things, and then one became
yeah.
God Bless America. How many are you writing? When you're
Well,
not writing Amazon reviews?
I don't know if those are necessarily good scripts, but yeah, I write a lot of scripts and I think they're all like in a holding pattern and they're in
Yeah,
different shape. Like some will be basically a big outline,
yeah.
but it is written in script form and it's like, 50 pages. It's funny I say that there's another script that is like over 200, so Uh, but yeah, I kind of write them and then wait for what feels like it's in the best shape and then go out and try to start it.
And are you able to get back to the position with any of them, say, that you were on Willow Creek, where you can fund it yourself? Are you waiting for yourself to give permission to make the films? Or you said before you were looking to do something bigger? I mean, where's your selection at the minute?
Um, I think I think if I don't make a movie in the next year or two, I will make one, you know, uh, a la Tangerine, I probably might
Yeah.
make a movie that I could go out and do like that. So yeah, I haven't done that idea yet, but I probably would.
And are you getting itchy to make another one? Is that seems to be the tone coming across?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely want to go make another movie. I really, I really enjoy it because I get to hang out with my friends and we collaborate and it's really nice. I mean, one of the movies I wrote, I got married. It was last year. It's been a year now. Uh,
Congratulations.
Thanks. So I wrote a movie for my wife, Pollyanna McIntosh. Do you know? She's an actor. So I wrote a movie so her and I could work together.
Oh, okay. So is that the one that's bubbling up somewhere towards the top?
That's one of the ones. There's two that are like on the top, and that one's definitely on the top. Yeah.
And so you got married, you moved to Ireland. You look at because everyone's making movies in Ireland. I
Yeah.
read Cocaine Bear was done in Ireland.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
Abigail's all the horror films now seem to have decamped to Ireland, but presumably there's quite a lot of facilities to accommodate that. Are you? I mean, is it? Easy is the wrong word, but are you at the point of exploring where you could make the film? I'm
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
very nosy now.
Definitely. Definitely. I would be surprised if I didn't end up making a movie in Ireland. And because Pollyanna's worked there on,
Yeah.
on on different size movies and TV shows. So I would be surprised if I didn't end up making something there.
On God Bless America. So I mean, this is bouncing all over the shop, but I noticed at the end you dedicated it to Jack Burns.
Oh yeah.
Can you just? I'm one of those people. If I see something like that, I just ask why. So if
Well,
you don't mind me asking,
because Jack was my buddy. He shows up briefly in the movie and he
yeah,
passed away. But Jack, he's a really brilliant guy and but one of the angriest people I've ever met. But really sweet. He really had a lot more Frank in him than I did. Um, but yeah, at the same time, now it's come full circle. Like he co-wrote the Muppet movie. Jack did.
the
Isn't that
original one.
yeah, yeah.
I love
And
that film.
he was the showrunner on the Muppet Show, and
Ja- yeah, of course.
he has all these crazy credits, and he and I just became friends, and I would have a lunch with him about once a month, and he would just make me laugh and regale me with crazy showbiz stories because he was George Carlin's first comedy partner and all this stuff. So he was just the guy I really loved. And you know, getting parental approval, I don't know if I ever got the kind that I was searching for, but
Yeah.
for me, Jack was that kind of parental approval. He would always support these stuff. So it was pretty sweet.
Oh, I'm glad I asked that now. That's lovely. I'm interested when looking back at films as to how they're almost looked after and presented. And I find God Bless America in really nice state. The print that I saw, I've seen it on a UK streaming service today, and it looks really good. But it's also the way it's presented is respectful of the film. And the contrast I draw is the first film of yours as a director I saw was Sleeping Dogs Lie, which I've seen. I mean, that one just felt almost like it was a bit out of your control. I've been reading in that you've got DVD
Yeah,
covers that, let's just say, played to elements of the film that actually aren't the film. I'm just wondering how you feel about how your films are treated in hindsight.
I'm happy when they do get something like this, get a second life. Um, I should have a little more, and I admire him, but I should have a little more Kevin Smith in me. I
Yeah,
don't. There's no website where you can find my things, which I should do, and I'm not saying I won't do that, but I think I make it challenging for people to become a fan, which I can't really complain if I'm not known as a filmmaker. Yeah,
but just in terms of controlling like how your work is put out. I mean, because I had on this show Andrew Davis, who directed The Fugitive, and
yeah,
he's managed to get rights back to a couple of his films, so he can
cool.
sell them in the way he wants them. And
Cool.
it's not that he's selling lots of copies of them. He's just like I think he just got a little bit fed up with how they were put across.
I should try to pursue that with Shakes and Sleeping Dogs Lie. Because people don't know even that Stay really, it was called Stay originally, but even exists. Yeah, I get more frustrated when you see like a muddy DVD where
Yeah.
I wasn't involved in the transfer, or when I get excited when they'll ask for commentary. I don't know if they do commentary anymore, but because
They're
then you
rare, but they're still just about. There's some of them clinging on.
yeah. I think it'd be a good idea just to do like something where an audio file that is available and you sync it up, you
Yeah.
know. I think that would be pretty.
Do you know what? After this conversation, I might get in touch with you again just with a few thoughts on that. Stuff like that. I just think, like putting out stories of films, I just think he's because otherwise you're not leaving the ladder for the next person behind you anyway. You telling
Yeah,
stories of how you're running. I'm not anyone listening or watching this. I'm not suggesting you go and run an electricity cable and break into someone's house and stuff like that. But the whole guerrilla aspect of independent filmmaking, if people don't tell the stories,
yeah.
how's anyone else going to be inspired or follow it?
Well, I remember we were filming Call Me Lucky, and there was the ice started cracking. We were on a frozen lake, and one of the camera guys worked on that show, Ice Truckers, and we
Yeah,
hear this big loud boom, and he goes, "We gotta go." I go, "What?" He goes, "We gotta get off the ice." And I go, "How do we do that?" He goes, "Not together. Everybody separate." And we walked out, and there's this chasm breaking, and you see the snow, and it was crazy. So we get out of the off the lake that was breaking, and there's this jetty, there's this like long dock next door, and I go, "Hey guys, let's just shoot this on there." And this young kid's like going, "It says do not enter." I go, "No, I called the guy and he said if he wasn't there just to jump the chain." And Barry, who was the subject of the documentary, goes, "You lied so fast to that kid." He goes, "Are you lying to me? Are you really making a documentary on me? Is this Windy City Heat too?" But I think I'm fairly honest in life, but when I'm in production, I am a liar. I will do anything I will get to say anything to get the shot done. Yeah.
And
Mm.
is that still the one that you're developing with Judd Apatow to be?
Yeah, that was the one I was laughing at because
Yeah,
it's a couple hundred-page script now. So I have to really cut
I've
it.
seen This Is 40. Judd Apatow's not scared of a long film.
I know that's what I was like saying. I go, I actually have a script too long for Judd Apatow.
I think it was even Seth Rogen called it This Is 40 minutes too long. You know?
Oh,
No, that's his friend. It's just like I like This Is 40, but yeah, if there's anyone you're going to get away with it.
hey,
What?
talking about, are you getting this show, The Studio there?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think
I,
it's really fun. I really,
I'm up to the episode where Ron Howard loses his shit.
isn't it great? Like, what's
Yes.
fascinating is that the directors are
Our
really good.
actors. Sarah Polly is a great actor. I mean, Scorsese, mind you,
Those-
Scorsese turned up in Quiz Show and just a small cameo. And he's great. Every time he acts, he's really
he-
good.
all of them are so present. Owen Klein shows up in one. He's a young guy. He's like in his 30s, but um, he shows up and he's so present. And then finally I go, how about instead of giving it up to these directors, why don't you give it up to Seth and his partner? Because they're getting these performances out of these directors. They're really amazing.
Ever Goldberg, isn't it? But how many films have they directed between them anyway?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
they've got quite a storied career now,
yeah,
and
yeah.
Death Threats.
And well, this one, yeah, yeah. They on this, yeah. I've written letters saying in case this, forget everything I wrote in case this gets hacked by the Koreans. Just tell them I'm a big fan of their irreverent brand of
You have
humor.
written that letter. I
Yeah,
believe you when you say that.
I was given this script I was like, this script will make a lot of money, and I would like to drive over right now and punch everybody involved in the throat. And then I wrote, in case this gets hacked by the Koreans, what I really meant to say is I'm a big fan of their irreverent brand of humor.
I shall pass that message on. Can I ask
It was,
what? Go on, sir.
it, I can't remember what the movie was that set me off. I was so offended that someone sent me this comedy that they thought I would be a good choice for, and that pissed me off.
Do you get sent a lot?
No, no, no,
I
no.
mean, because I read in interviews an awful lot the questions that you're asked, and I'm studiously avoiding the ones that you're always asked about stuff that you were doing in the 80s and acting and stand up
Oh,
and
oh, yeah,
voice and
yeah.
things like that. But I'm kind of curious, what aren't you asked? Is there anything that ever strikes you in your head that you just wish someone would stumble upon the question? It's such a cop out to ask you that, but I always try and ask it.
I think, I don't, people never ask me about like who do I look up to, who kind of influenced me making movies.
Who
Like
do you look up to?
it
Who
was
influences
funny
you making
enough.
movies?
There's like people like Mike White did a movie called Chuck and Buck,
It's a great film. It's a
yeah,
great film. Yeah,
and
it's the best thing he's done, and that's a
that
high
movie,
bar.
yeah, that movie set me on my path
How so?
because I saw that movie and I said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna go make a movie," and that's when I made Sleeping Dogs Lie. I
Is
had
that
made
right?
years ago, but after seeing Chuck and Buck, I was like, okay, that this movie, yeah, that movie. And I told him that once, and I don't know him, and he got really uncomfortable. Of course, how else would he get? But
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
because
Uh,
Kevin Smith said the same thing. Was it Richard Linklater? He went and watched Slacker, and then
yeah.
thought, "Hang on, I can." And then he made Clerks off the back of that. So who else are you looking up to? Who are the ones who are inspiring you?
When I see people like I was funny, I just said Owen Klein, he
Yeah,
just made a movie, but people that make the movies that they have to make,
yeah.
um, like Sean Baker, that's the hero, his work. So yeah, and then there's the obvious people that I think uh they did. I didn't think to myself, I want to. be like them, I would watch their movies and think, yes, of course, this is what you should do.
Yeah.
And that would be like people like John Waters and stuff, you know. I don't know if I was shocked by John Waters as much as going, oh yeah, this makes sense.
My entry to John Waters was Serial Mum, though.
Oh yeah,
That
yeah.
was my first one, and the musical sequence of someone being beaten to death by a leg of lamb to the music of Annie, which is still one of my favorite 90s movie moments. I can't rid it from my head, nor would I ever want to.
Yeah, so there's people, there's a lot of folks, you know, and then I like Preston Sturges a lot.
Yeah,
You know, I really like Preston Sturges, and Preston Sturges' formula is like sometimes I get criticized that some of the a lot of the main characters are usually completely developed people
yeah,
or somewhat. And then there's a lot of people with just that are just one dimensional that show up in my movie. And I'm aware of that. And Preston Sturges did that all the time. There's a lot of people that are just comedic and they're helping move the story along, but there's you're not like wondering why they're doing that or anything. And I am aware of that. So there's a lot of screwball comedies I like, you know, and stuff like that. Tomorrow night I'll go see Sullivan's Travels in the theater. I've never seen it in the theater, and that's a favorite too,
because
you know.
I've read that you're, yeah, yeah, those were the three films I heard that you're a huge fan of: Sullivan's Travels,
Yeah,
Harold and Maude, and Young Frankenstein.
yeah, yeah.
Harold and Maude is a masterpiece, a
Yeah,
masterpiece.
Harold and Maude is was one of those movies I saw as a kid and was like, it made me not feel so alone.
No, but yeah, yeah, completely get that.
You
Completely get
know,
that. It's an incredible film.
and I think like Young Frankenstein probably influenced the movies I make more than anything because it's the, you know, I'm usually mixing genres, so it's
Yeah,
like Shakes the Clown is a noir film set in with clowns, a clown noir,
yeah.
and and so they're always usually like, you know, like I said, God Bless America is a violent film about kindness.
I've read that in not just in your words. I've read loads of responses that say that.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, I went through I mean, bringing this full circle, I went through that list of Amazon reviews, and kindness just kept coming up. And there are
Oh,
1,700 reviews of the film on there.
holy
The
smoke!
majority, and 75% of them are 5-star. And I was just
Wow.
like, okay, that's interesting. And so, first of all, you obviously like the twos and the 4 stars are the ones that interest me, because I think
Yeah. Well,
online people go for 5 or 1. So I wanted to see where the nuance was, where but kindness kept coming through.
it's interesting that I mean, it's very sweet and it's very flattering because I know not a ton of people saw it, that people felt that they have to promote it or they have
Yeah,
to complain about it. You know, that if
interesting.
they just didn't watch it and go, that was okay. I mean, they either went, whoa, or it went, oh. And that's back to what I would say to Robin and I would be like, you know, one day we were at dinner and he's performing basically for the people sitting around us and the wait staff. And I'm not really, you know, I'm like, I go, hey man, just turn it off. Let's just hang out, you know?
Yeah,
And I go, your mental illness is you want everybody to love you. And
yeah.
my form of mental illness is I want people to go, did you fucking see what Bobcat did? And I said, your form is way more lucrative, you know.
I was reading the other day about a story on the set of Dead Poets Society where Peter Weir sent him off to do a night of stand-up just because he needed it just
Just
completely out of the system.
get it out of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
It's very flattering that he said that that Peter and I were his favorite directors to work
Well,
with.
I mean, World's Greatest Dad is still an extraordinary film. I mean,
Oh, thanks.
I saw that as it came out, and God Bless America. I mean, I've been processing it for what 2-3 hours, and it's quite a piece of work. I'm a big fan of it,
Oh,
and so yeah, I mean, all I can say to you is just like keep making films, and also, I wasn't going to bring this up, but if ever you're worried about the triviality of the film media reporting ecosystem now in the modern era, my current thing, this is the other thing I was doing while I was waiting. I didn't save this for you, but I may as well bring it up. Is I collect old film magazines just to kind of see what people were writing about. So, if ever you worry about putting films out into the clickbait era, this is from what's this? Picture Show magazine in 1925, a full page spread for you on men and mustaches in the movies. Isn't that gold? So it's really entertained me. The reason I was half chuckling when I came on this at the start is because I've just been reading both about men and mustaches and a special supplement on the launch on MGM in Kinematograph Weekly, where the main advert at the back is for typewriters in the typing pool. It's just like the world is full of lasagnas. My last question, I've horribly overrun my time, and I do appreciate your patience with me. What can so I mean, I do urge people to go out and see God Bless America. It's on the Studio Canal Present streaming platform here in the UK. What can outlets like mine do to support work like yours? Because you said that you said that people who watch your films feel like they have to almost go out and promote them just because other
Yeah,
people won't
I
see
would
them.
say I should do a better job of promoting them, but if people just watch them and also, if I had a plug for myself, if one doesn't turn you, if you didn't like one of them, still give another one a shot because I mean, they're different. Willow Creek is much different than Windy City Heat or something. I mean, they're all
Yeah,
different. So that's all I ask people to give them a shot. And I think people get hung up on budgets.
yeah,
Which is strange. I guess they want the eye candy and stuff, but I make a concession when I'm watching Cassavetes. I don't go, oh, I wish he I wish he had more coverage of this scene, or why is it all one, or so whatever. I'm just gonna keep making movies and that's the cool thing about our age, if the if you're willing to make them smaller, there are no gatekeepers.
brilliant. Bobcat Goldthwait, thank you so much for your time. This has been a real, real thrill. Thank
Oh,
you.
well, thank you.